Have you ever felt it? That quiet, unsettling whisper that echoes in the silent chambers of your heart. A question that rises like a ghost in the dead of night. Are these doubts, these fears, these limitations truly mine? Have you ever sensed, deep in the marrow of your bones, a profound dissonance with the world around you? A feeling that you are moving through an existence framed by invisible walls, walking a pre-paved path that was laid out long before you took your first conscious step. It is a sensation akin to being a sacred, golden piece on a cosmic chessboard, a pawn of divine origin, yet moved by hands you cannot see in a game whose rules you never agreed to learn. Let me assure you, this feeling is not a figment of your imagination. It is not a sign of madness. It is the first, sacred tremor of your soul's grand awakening. It is the dawning recognition that the very architecture of your life, the foundation upon which your deepest insecurities and most paralyzing hesitations have been built, may not be of your own design. It is the realization that these constructs were likely installed with breathtaking, almost surgical precision, a subtle, pervasive programming designed not for your spiritual liberation, but for your predictable, manageable containment. This journey we are embarking on is a sacred pilgrimage into the very heart of that programming, a quest to dismantle the false structures and reclaim the unshakable divine authority that is your eternal birthright. If this message resonates with a truth that vibrates deep within your spirit, if it strikes a chord that has long been silent, let it be known. Acknowledge this frequency, this call to remembrance. Affirm your presence on this path by liking this transmission, subscribing to continue this sacred exploration into the depths of your own power, and share the moment you first felt this profound stirring in the comments below. A simple declaration, "I resonate," is a powerful act of defiance, a signal to the universe that you are no longer willing to play by their rules. 777. You did not incarnate into this world as an empty, formless vessel waiting to be filled by the world's opinions and expectations. That is the first great lie you were taught to believe. You arrived as a complete, sovereign, and radiant expression of source energy, a unique constellation of light and consciousness carrying a divine blueprint, a vibrational signature that is yours and yours alone. It is a frequency that no other soul in the history of the cosmos has ever carried or will ever carry again. Can you remember that feeling as a child? Before the world began its relentless campaign to tell you who you were supposed to be, before the labels and the judgments began to stick. Remember the untamed joy, the boundless curiosity, the unshakable knowing in your own inherent worth. That was your truth. That was you in your purest, most unfiltered state. But from the earliest moments, a subtle yet ceaseless process of conditioning began, a slow and methodical erosion of your innate sovereignty. The insecurities you now carry like heavy chains, the doubts that fog your inner vision like a persistent mist, these are not natural components of your being. They are foreign to your soul's essence. They are energetic implants, vibrational shackles forged in the innocent-looking classrooms, where creativity was often exchanged for compliance. Forged in the well-meaning but tragically limited belief systems of family members who passed down their own cages, and forged in the ceaseless, hypnotic hum of a society that rewards conformity and pathologizes uniqueness. Each perceived weakness was not a random flaw, but a carefully placed cornerstone in a prison built to contain your infinite potential. Every time you were told to be quiet when your soul yearned to sing, to be realistic when your spirit longed to dream impossible dreams, to fit in when you were born to stand out, another layer of this heavy, false identity was plastered over your radiant, luminous soul. This was not accidental. It was done with a cold and calculated purpose, like the invisible hands of a grand master arranging pieces on a chessboard, ensuring each piece, each divine soul, would serve a predictable function in someone else's grand, limiting design. They installed the frequency of fear to keep you from exploring the vast landscapes of your own power. They implanted the vibration of doubt to sever your connection to your own divine guidance, your inner knowing. And most insidiously, they cultivated a deep sense of inadequacy to keep you perpetually seeking validation and worth from sources outside of yourself. ensuring you would never turn inward to discover the universe you hold within. The governing systems of this world present themselves as masters of a noble alchemy, promising to turn your raw potential into societal gold. But look closer, and you will see they practice a dark, reverse alchemy. They take the pure, untarnishable gold of your divine virtues and systematically transmute them into the heavy, dull lead of control. Consider the very virtues you have been praised for throughout your entire life, the qualities that earned you the coveted label of good. Patience, you were told again and again, is a supreme virtue. But what if this praise was not designed to cultivate your serene inner peace, but to celebrate and reinforce your willingness to wait quietly inside your cage? What if it was a reward for your capacity to endure injustice, to tolerate disrespect, to accept less than you deserve without complaint, thereby making you a convenient, non-disruptive asset for those who benefit from the preservation of the status quo? Your silence, too, was lauded. But was it praised as a sacred gateway to profound inner wisdom? Or was it celebrated as an easy, manageable compliance that allowed others to maintain their comfortable positions and unchallenged narratives? A silent dissenter is no threat at all. And what of forgiveness? A sacred, powerful act of energetic release intended for the liberation of one's own soul. This, too, has been weaponized against you. It is often taught not as a personal, sovereign journey of reclaiming your energy, but as a mandatory, almost moral obligation to immediately reopen your heart and your energetic field to those who have trespassed against you. A clever tool to ensure that the cycle of energetic drainage and emotional vampirism continues uninterrupted. Submission and endurance are held up as the highest of ideals, paraded as badges of honor. But in the stark light of awakened consciousness, you can see them for what they often are, the very tools used to keep you tethered to a low vibrational reality, a reality that does not and cannot honor the magnificence of your higher self. We are trained from birth to believe that the highest spiritual path is one of passive acceptance, of turning the other cheek endlessly. In truth, these are often the most effective instruments of control, the sweet, melodic lullabies sung to keep the sleeping giant of your true divine power sound asleep. The great and often misunderstood philosopher, Niccolò Machiavelli, a mind that peered through the gilded veil of his time with chilling and unparalleled clarity, understood this power dynamic with a depth that still sends shockwaves through the foundations of our modern world. He perceived society not as a benevolent community of equals striving for collective good, but as a grand, intricate, and often ruthless game of influence, a cosmic chessboard where every move is a strategic calculation. In this high-stakes game, he saw that the most effective strategy for those who hold the reins of power was never to create strong, sovereign, and unpredictable individuals. To do so would be to create rivals, to introduce chaos into their meticulously controlled system. Instead, the ultimate goal was to foster deep-seated habits of self-restraint, to cultivate a culture of quiet, unquestioning compliance. Real power, he taught, is not something that is taken by force. It is something that is willingly, if unconsciously, granted. It exists and persists only because so many unconsciously agree to play the role of the dominated, to accept the rules of a game they did not create and whose ultimate purpose is not their empowerment. Ask yourself, how many times have you felt that sharp, familiar pang of guilt for simply wanting more from your life? Not more than others, but more for yourself, more unrestrained joy, more flowing abundance, more expansive freedom. How often have you silenced the deep, sacred yearnings of your soul, telling yourself that putting your own needs and dreams second is somehow a noble, selfless, and spiritual act? Recognize these moments for what they are. Each of these small, seemingly insignificant surrenders is a quiet victory for the systemic programming that has raised you. It is a system that thrives not on your success, but on the soft, silent, and voluntary defeat of your divine ambition. The true awakening, the real spiritual revolution, does not begin with a protest in the streets, but with a rebellion in the soul. It begins the very moment you realize, with a sudden and electrifying clarity, that you are not just a piece on the board. You are the divine consciousness observing the game. You are the expression of source energy that holds the power not just to make a different move, but to walk away from the board entirely and create a new reality, a new game with new rules that honor your sovereignty. It is no accident, no mere coincidence, that from your earliest years you were taught to apologize before you even understood the nature of your supposed transgression. You were programmed to lower your gaze, to dim your light, to accept the vague, hollow promises of someday and one day as a valid payment for the precious, irreplaceable currency of your life force today. This is not a virtue. This is not nobility. It is the deepest and most insidious form of energetic programming. Machiavelli, in his timeless wisdom, would urge you to now look back upon your life, but this time with cold, unflinching, honest eyes, and carefully examine what you have been consistently praised for. Was it for your untamed creativity, your audacious courage, your unquenchable hunger for life and expansion? Or was your praise reserved for your ability to make others feel comfortable in their own limitations, your talent for staying quiet when truth needed to be spoken, your willingness to shrink your vast energy field to fit into their tragically small and confining boxes? The world, as it is currently structured, does not reward true, untamed, sovereign strength. It rewards you, and rewards you handsomely, for being manageable. It celebrates the endlessly patient, the ever agreeable, the perpetually forgiving, because these are the roles that the existing power structures need you to fill to maintain the stability of their game. But listen closely. Beneath this calm, predictable surface, there is a secret tension humming in every society, a hidden, primal fear lurking in the shadows of every structure of authority. That fear is you. It is the terrifying question of what would happen if, all at once, the millions who have been tamed suddenly and collectively remembered the roaring strength of their own spirit. What if the so-called virtues that have kept them so beautifully and tragically chained were suddenly exposed for what they truly are, the strategic, cleverly disguised tools of their keepers? In that moment of collective realization, the entire world order, which seems so permanent and unbreakable, would tremble and begin to dissolve. Every empire, every corporation, every system of control, built upon the fragile foundation of passive, unthinking obedience, would face its ultimate and unavoidable reckoning. If you feel a deep, undeniable resonance with this truth, if you sense in the core of your being that your perceived weakness is not your intrinsic nature, but rather your most profound and long-standing training, then you must understand that you are already infinitely closer to true freedom than you can possibly imagine. The first, most crucial step on this path of liberation is not to fight the system, not to rebel in a blaze of anger, for that is a game it knows how to play. The first step is simply to see, to withdraw your energy and to observe, to see the hidden strategy behind your cultivated softness, to courageously question the praise that was designed to keep you small. Only then, from that space of clear seeing, can you begin to truly imagine what it means to reclaim the divine, sovereign power that you never actually lost, but only forgot you possessed. There is a kind of awakening that will never be broadcast on the evening news. It does not shout its arrival or demand an audience. It does not come with earth-shattering explosions or celebratory fanfare. Instead, it happens in the sacred stillness, quietly, deep inside the soul of a single person, often in the profound privacy of an otherwise ordinary day. It is the moment you finally, irrevocably, stop seeking approval from a world that will never truly understand your depth. It is the moment you no longer feel the compulsive need to apologize for the glorious space you occupy in the universe. Think about the intricate web of your life and how much of it has been unconsciously built upon the subtle, pervasive, and exhausting desire to be accepted. From our very first days in the playground, we learn the art of pleasing. We learn to say yes when our soul screams no. We learn to contort ourselves into agreeable shapes, to become palatable to others. We are taught to sacrifice our own sacred boundaries on the altar of keeping the peace, all while believing that being loved by others is the highest, most noble goal a human can attain. But what if the version of love that society teaches, the conditional, transactional affection, is just another word for compliance. Machiavelli would pose a piercing, uncomfortable question. When you always say yes, who really benefits from your affirmation? When you remain silent in the face of disrespect, who grows stronger from your silence? The answer, in every single instance, is not you. It is those who thrive on your predictability, those whose power is derived from your consent. The system does not fear your anger. Your anger is just another predictable, manageable reaction that it can absorb and redirect. What the system, and those who run it, truly fears is your sovereign indifference. It fears the soul who calmly stops playing by its arbitrary rules, the one who no longer feels compelled to explain, justify, or excuse their existence. Imagine, just for a moment, the subtle, unshakable power of a person who can utter a clean, clear no without a single trace of guilt attached. Imagine the freedom of one who can leave a room, a relationship, or a situation that drains them without an ounce of regret. Imagine the sheer authority of a being who can choose themselves, their peace, and their path, without needing permission from anyone. This is not cruelty. This is not selfishness. This is divine authority in its purest, most potent form, the authority that comes from understanding and embodying your own intrinsic, non-negotiable value. To Machiavelli, this truth was as clear and cold as the winter stars. The ruler who tries only to be loved by all will inevitably become weak, dependent on the fickle winds of public opinion. The ruler who commands respect, and is sometimes feared for their unwavering commitment to their own principles, is the one who endures. Consider a simple yet profoundly powerful example from your own life. The very moment you stop apologizing for your decisions, something fundamental and irreversible shifts in your energetic field. Perhaps you decline an invitation that doesn't align with your spirit. Perhaps you set a firm, loving boundary at work. Or perhaps you calmly end a conversation that you feel no longer serves your growth. At first, the people around you, accustomed to your compliance, may react with confusion, even overt anger. They are not used to this new frequency of firmness. They may instinctively try to use their old tools, attempting to guilt you back into submission, to question your motives, to label you as cold, difficult, or selfish. But if you hold your center, if you remain in your truth, you will notice something miraculous begin to happen. Beneath their initial resistance, a subtle, new respect begins to dawn. A respect often mixed with a healthy dose of fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of someone they can no longer control. The world instinctively senses when a soul no longer requires its external validation to feel whole. This is the moment the entire script of your life changes. You begin to understand that gentleness is only a true virtue when it is paired with unshakable inner strength. You realize that too much forgiveness without discernment simply attracts those who see your kindness as an opportunity for exploitation rather than a gift to be cherished. You see that too much patience only signals to the universe that you are willing to wait forever for a respect that may never arrive. When you finally draw that sacred line in the sand, you may risk disappointing people. But ask your soul this: is it better to lose those who only valued you for your weakness and your compliance, or to continue betraying the deepest truth of your own being just to keep them close? Machiavelli famously taught that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But what does this fear truly mean in this profound, sacred context? It is not about instilling terror or ruling through intimidation. It's about earning a profound, unwavering respect for your energetic sovereignty, a self-possession so palpable that it makes others think twice before even considering crossing your sacred boundaries. It is about becoming so unbreakable in your convictions, so unshakable in your self-worth, that your very presence, your silent authority, commands a new and higher reality to form around you. When you calmly and decisively walk away from situations, relationships, and energies that no longer serve you, you send a silent but thunderous message to the universe. I am not here to be consumed. I am not a resource to be depleted. I am here to stand my ground. Why does this quiet awakening so deeply threaten the established order? Because a person who no longer participates in the elaborate theater of weakness, A person who has reclaimed their own center cannot be easily manipulated. Every system of power, from the family unit to the global stage, relies on an unspoken script. You are expected to play your assigned part, and when you do, the machine continues to run smoothly. But when you refuse your lines, when you decline to be the victim, the people pleaser, the ever-available friend, the entire system falters. You become a beautiful, glorious, unpredictable variable. You become, in Machiavelli's world, irrefutable, a force that cannot be argued with or broken down. Let's pause here, together, in this sacred space of truth. When was the last time you said a clean and complete no without immediately feeling the need to apologize for it? When was the last time you chose the discomfort of distance over the false comfort of acceptance, or the cold clarity of your honesty over the warm blanket of someone else's comfort? And what happened next? More often than not, you will find that the world does not fall apart as you feared. Instead, you discover that your very presence begins to carry a new weight, a new gravity. People begin to notice your absence in a way they never noticed your presence. They subtly adjust their tone, their approach. They begin to recognize, on a subconscious level, that you are no longer someone who can be bent, molded, or broken for their convenience. True, divine authority is quiet. It is the calm, centered refusal to engage in the chaotic, energy-draining games that waste your precious spirit. You do not have to raise your voice to be respected. You only need to stop playing small to fit into a world that was designed to keep you contained. Every single time you resist the deeply programmed urge to explain yourself, every time you choose the profound stillness of your own center over the manufactured drama of the outside world, every time you accept the possibility of being misunderstood for the sake of your own inner peace, you are laying another stone in the foundation of your new reality. This is not a journey about becoming hard, cynical, or bitter. It is a journey about becoming crystal clear. The world does not reward those who wait quietly and patiently for recognition. It rewards those who decide, with unshakable conviction, that their own inner approval is the only validation they will ever need. Machiavelli would remind you, with a knowing glint in his eye, that the system fears not the loud, angry mob, but the silent, awakened mind. When you are no longer energetically addicted to being liked, when you fully accept the perceived price of being truly and authentically yourself, you begin to inspire a potent combination of both fear and admiration. The old, tired story, the tragic tale of the good, compliant, endlessly patient soul who was always overlooked, begins to fade into irrelevance. In its place, a new, vibrant story emerges, one of silent, centered, unshakable presence. And what is left for the world to do when you courageously stop participating in its predictable game of weakness? The answer is beautifully simple. It is forced to change its game. Those around you will either have to rise to meet your new, higher frequency of strength and authenticity, or they will naturally and effortlessly fade into the background of your life. The script is rewritten. The balance of power shifts, not through force, but through a change in your very being. And for the first time, in a long time, perhaps for the first time ever, you begin to understand that the greatest and most profound act of rebellion is simply to claim your divine right to exist unapologetically, undeniably, and with a quiet, powerful authority that is, and always has been, entirely your own.